in the last couple days, I was able to deadlift conventional 515, which is 233 kilos, I think, which is a lifetime PR for me. But that PR didn't come with its fair share of troubles and struggles, I would say. I had to push through quite a bit of injuries and just illnesses in the last like 2 years. So it actually took me 2 years to go from like 400, let's say 60 pounds to like 515. So basically last workout, it was on Friday. The goal was to hit a single on deadlifts at like a 7 or an 8 on like a single, and it was like comp deadlifts. So my competition stance is conventional with a belt, obviously. So I've been doing like conjugate for a while, and then my last week of the block I had like a planned comp single at a 7 or an 8, somewhere around there. And turns out the like weight I was planning to put on the bar was 5 plates, which is like 495. So that would have been a pretty nice PR for me. So I tried it and it moved really good. It moved like a 7 or 7.5. I was really happy with that. And since I haven't maxed out on deadlifts in like so long, right? Like the last time I maxed out on deadlifts was basically last meet, which was September 2022. So since then I haven't really touched like a really high RP single on deadlifts. So I said, you know what, let's just go for it. Yeah, I ended up putting 20 more pounds on the bar and was able to pull 515 at like an RP, like probably like a 9.5. Like it was pretty hard, but I'm pretty glad like I grinded it out. Looking back at the footage, I probably had like another 10 pounds or so. So did it really feel like going, as my namesake goes, RP 10. So I just capped it there. But I was happy with the two-time PR. This video, I think, is just going to be about how I overcame those sicknesses that I had throughout the 2 years. So if you guys don't know, I have Crohn's. So 2022 September or August, I started having really bad like stomach problems. And I went to the doctor, and they made me do some tests, colonoscopy and all that. And turns out I got diagnosed with Crohn's. So that put like a huge stop in my training. I wasn't even able to like lift properly. My stomach was always hurting. I couldn't brace at all, and I had to like take quite a few months like off lifting almost entirely. Like I basically had to deload all my lifts to like nothing, like an empty bar, even less, like a dumbbell. Like for squats, I was doing like goblet squats. That's all I could tolerate. And yeah, so I was basically, brought back to square one practically, and I had to work through that. But basically that's kind of what I want to talk about, is how I overcame that. And I think it comes down to like 3 things. So the first one, and I learned a lot of this like with trial and error. Like it didn't come like really easily. But the first one that I realized was that, I knew how to get strong, and like, I've been lifting for a while and I knew what to do to progress my lifts, but I wasn't able to stay healthy, that's what was holding me back. So I heard something interesting that Matt Wenning said, and he has like those Wenning warm-ups where he does like a ton of reps and stuff. But what he said is that like in order to get stronger, at some point he had to get fitter, or for me, healthier in this case. So I kind of adapted that philosophy a little bit. So last year I posted a video talking about how I wanted to incorporate a lot more cardio in my training just to get healthier, and I was able to incorporate that really well. So like twice per week I was doing like zone 2, they call it, swimming. So I was doing a lot of swimming at the pool, just like focusing on like getting my core stability back, and that seemed to really help. I also felt like doing that, I was getting better energy throughout my workouts, getting less tired, and I felt like I just had more endurance throughout my lifting. Even when I go for like higher rep sets or whatever, I would get less taxed. So that was a really good thing that I tried doing, and that really worked. And I also implemented 1 day a week of like higher intensity biking. So I do like I was reading Peter Attia's book called Outlive, and like he talks about doing this zone 4 kind of training for your cardio, where you do like 4-minute sets of like sprinting, almost like all out, and then 4 minutes of zone 2 after that, and then you repeat that cycle like for 4 sets. So I started doing that, and like I just started feeling like much more explosive even with my lifting, and just much better energy throughout the day. And yeah, so that seemed to really help with getting healthier. So that's kind of a one part of it. And then for my stomach and trying to avoid the pain that I was dealing with, I would also do like intermittent fasting. So obviously there's like different opinions on that, but for me it seems to work. I train now almost like with no food in my system, and then I train with no food, and when I'm done training I eat. So much better for my stomach and how I feel throughout the workout. And one last thing I started doing, in order to get healthier, is pretending that like my stomach issue was almost like a weakness. So basically I started doing more core work, which is something that like, I'm doing squats, bench, deadlift, who cares? I don't need to do core work. But I started doing this exercise called dead bugs. If you don't know what it is, you could look it up, and that really helps you to like focus on your bracing and your stability. So I started doing that, and it started really to help with my bracing. And like a lot of my training was done beltless. I noticed when I train with a belt, it seems like I get more inflammation, and I get more susceptibility to that pain. So I've been training a lot beltless and doing a lot of more core work, and it's been really helping. So that was, I guess, the first way to improve my results, and that was to get healthier. The second one is something that I noticed like kind of recently. For a while I was trying to bring up my bench last year, and it was going really well. And I kind of got to the point where like I was going to try to like hit a max on my bench, right? So I was like, obviously like I'm not a very good bencher. Like I'm still benching in the 200s or whatever. It's because like obviously I have long arms, and I don't want to blame my genetics, but considering I deadlift in the 500s and I'm benching in the 200s, like I probably have a pretty good genetic disposition for deadlifts rather than bench. So bench has always been a weakness for me, and I've been trying to improve it. A lot of hypertrophy work, it seems to work better for bench. But anyways, I got to a point where I had to try out like also a pretty heavy single on bench, and I ended up failing the bench press by myself in my house. And I want to say the reason for that is I was kind of not ego lifting, but when like you get really like anxious before a lift, and you listen to like loud music, and you're just nervous, and you have like bad energy, and you're just lifting because you're angry. And it kind of felt like that, and I told myself like, what's the point of doing that? Like if I just stick to a proper RPE, and I don't like overshoot, and if I do things right and I take my time, like there's no point in going for broke, like benching by yourself in your house with no safety pins. Not a very smart idea. So from that day on, I said, I'm not gonna lift with like angry energy. I'm gonna try to like be calmer when lifting, and using that like almost like internal energy to lift a weight, and focus more on technique. And I implemented that with deadlifts. Like every workout I was doing, I was just being like, I got this, I practiced this a lot, and I know I could make the weight to move without getting super pissed off and angry, you know? So I think having a more measured and calculated execution of your lifts is the best way to go. So I'm definitely going to keep doing that for all of my lifts. And yeah, so I guess the third way that I kind of like improved all this is just, yeah, focusing on the small details, right? Just trying to optimize my sleep as much as possible and focus on getting more protein. That was something I was always kind of like dismissing or disregarding, just the protein intake. I was like, oh, whatever, you know, I'll eat a bit of protein here and there and try to, you know, just get by basically. But I noticed as I really focused on getting more protein in, it really started to help my recovery. It started, you know, I noticed I was getting bigger too. So, and you know, obviously from the sleep, I've been wearing this Whoop thing, and it's been really helping me to get better results because I'm not constantly, you know, getting terrible sleep. And I'm kind of known to have bad sleep. Like even last night, like I didn't sleep too well, and I've been struggling with that for a few months now, just on and off. But yeah, I've been trying to improve my sleep, and that's made like a tremendous difference for just my mental clarity, my recovery, and everything. So those are pretty much the ways I did that to reach my goals, you know, last year when it came to lifting and all the other goals I had for the year. So I hope this helps you. And if you are, you know, struggling with some kind of, you know, illness or disease, whatever, just don't give up because, yeah, I had to go through the same thing, and I think you could get through it. All right.